New York City, a place of great food, way too many people trying to get around everywhere, a statue on an island that might be America's greatest gift ever received, and another job for yours truly. This time, to commandeer Agent 47 inside of a bank where the rich elite store their money to make even more money and screw over everyone under the top 1%. We're back in Hitman 3 to cause more shenanigans, beat a lot of people to death, and quite possibly escape with many riches thanks to today's location. I've been hired once again by a completely anonymous source to take no prisoners, eliminate a high-value target in particular, and completely over the plans of some global elitist jackasses looking to cover their tracks from all the misdeeds they've caused people over the years. Said people are looking to completely change their identities wholesale, and I'm not about to let some pigs I have zero knowledge of to grace themselves with a new name while I'm still stuck with a fucking number. Granted, 47 is a pretty badass number, but I digress. And because we're currently in the most wonderful time of the year, I went with the Santa Claus outfit. I think I blend right in. I drank a lot of water earlier that day, so naturally I had to use the bathroom to spend an unnecessary amount of time in there browsing my phone, looking at pupper videos, making mean comments on Reddit, the usual bathroom experience. But while I was getting ready to do the deed, I heard some people in the next stall over discussing some very naughty things, and I was honestly sick to my stomach. The bathroom is a sacred place for every person's alone time, and the fact that two people are sharing one just sends off red flags. So I grabbed the nearest wet floor sign, dropped it near the front doors like a good Samaritan so nobody would be disturbing us, and forced my way in because common sense won out and they locked the door. I immediately noticed a bag on the toilet housing what looked to be a bunny mask, and if you couldn't tell already, I really like funny costumes and I wanted that mask. Let's just say we hashed some things out and now I'm letting them rest after a really long and difficult conversation. Unfortunately, the rest of the outfit wasn't as fun and nowhere near as bougie as the Santa Claus outfit I had, so it was back to square one. I met up with this lad sitting behind the desk here and told him the God's honest truth about everything I ever did. I don't lie. I never lie. It also helped that he never made a snide remark about my fashion sense. It almost made me want to spare him and just keep him unconscious for the remainder of the day, but I had a job to do. He also had the keys to something important for later. As this was a bank, there were all kinds of goodies in there that were ripe for the pickings. Among what I found were an antique knife of some kind, a solid gold bar. This letter bomb parcel has invulnerable capabilities as shown when I threw it through this lady right here. One of the vaults straight up had a vial of poison in it, so that'll come in handy at some point, I'm sure. Situational awareness is clearly not this guy's strong suit. Granted, it's not mine either, but I know if I saw a roughly 170-pound man just drop to the ground in front of me, regardless of what I'm doing short of just not giving a shit about anything else that day, I'd at least be wary of my surroundings. While I was doing some rounds, scouting around for information, I came across this dude dry heaving his guts out into the toilet. This is also the same person that's going in for a job interview in about 5 minutes. It's also very unsanitary to puke up your own breakfast, so I did the world a favor by shoving it all back down his throat. And for some reason, as a result of cleaning up somebody else's mess, the stock for this place completely crashed. When it comes to dropping the top 1%'s bank accounts to absolute zero, there is almost nothing I won't do. If all it takes is drowning a dude in his own vomit to do that, I'm going to have a very easy time watching the world burn. Though, because he was also preparing for a job interview for this place, and because I don't want to let anybody down because of my actions, however justified they may be, I masqueraded as said interviewee and went in. I do have to wonder if these people purposefully make the answers to these questions easy, to try and make you think that these might be trick questions, reverse psychology in a way. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out what I exactly mean. Because I'm a purveyor of chaos, I purposefully chose the wrong answers just to see what would happen. They restrict you from the top floor. This is what happens when NPCs try and restrict the video game protagonist. Seeing as though somebody is inevitably going to find those bodies and correlate myself with the murders as I was the last one in there, I needed a new disguise. Worst comes to worst, at least I have a newspaper. A prime opportunity was presented in front of me when this guy in this gaudy looking outfit was having an existential crisis about not meeting quotas? I don't really know what that means, but he looked different than everybody else, so he's probably important. 47 must have put rocks inside this newspaper or something. I ain't never seen anybody get knocked unconscious with only some fucking paper. Somebody might want to call cleanup on aisle 5 for spilled ketchup. An optional objective presented to me was to retrieve some backup data disks. This is the game's way of telling me that I have 3 more individuals to add to my body count, and it just so happens that victim 1 was right up on the very next floor. If the initial knockout didn't give him a concussion, I'd imagine one of the 27 stair steps did, and if that didn't work, well, he won't have to worry about concussion protocol any longer. You know, I'm not gonna lie, this room right here, it kinda scares me. There's monitors everywhere, all displaying various numbers and graphs that I cannot even begin to comprehend. Though the color red usually means negative or down, and for some reason drowning that guy in his own vomit earlier caused all the chaos to occur, so maybe it's not as frightening as I initially thought. I feel violated right here. This guy's feeling me up and I don't like it. It turns out the attire I equip has granted a one-way ticket to my number 1 target today, Athena Savalas. You can tell she's an evil bitch thanks to that god-awful attire she's wearing. I mean, who in their right mind wears this shade of green willingly? It looks like shit. Literally. I guess the guy I stole these clothes from was named Mr. Jackson, and he was getting fired. The spiel from her was rather boring, but I suppose all rigmaroles from people who have their name etched in a piece of wood on their desk as if they don't need their egos inflated even more are quite the same. Though I noticed she quite enjoyed this giant-ass clock, and that got the gears turning in my brain. There's no satisfaction by simply blowing her brains out. You gotta make the kill count. Get creative with it, you know? So, after throwing a quarter a few feet away and unscrewing a screw on that clock, I hid back and waited patiently. It got aggravating having to wait 2 more entire minutes before the deed was done, but I digress. Also, if all it takes is 1 screw to completely remove as large of a pane of glass as that one is, I question the integral foundation of this entire building. Now, the rest of the security guards, yeah, fuck those guys, they only get bullets. Also, ain't it wild that I got hired and fired as 2 completely different people on the same day, all as a masquerade? I am very good at my job. Now that the fun upstairs has been had, for now, it was time to head underground and see what kinds of hell I could raise. Remember that vial of poison I found earlier? Well, this ventilation system gave me the perfect opportunity to use it. In all fairness, I wouldn't have poured it in there if they had just turned the temperature down 3 degrees more. This is also a perfect example of the phrase, fruits of your labor, as my previous victims are accounted for here, while I get to add 4 more to the mix. Remember to always keep your AC humid if you do not desire to inhale deadly toxins. I wish I could have the funds necessary to install a vault in my room to safely secure a card of some sort. In all honesty, I'd probably throw my credit card in there and Men in Black myself to forget the combination. This key card was my golden ticket to that giant vault over there, and let me just tell you that the opening sequence felt like the waiting process for the first GTA 6 trailer to drop. I tried ducking under the lasers since that seems to work in every spy movie that has them, but one thing Agent 47 seems to lack is dexterity. Not that I blame him, as sounding the alarms is always a fun time when your hit list is everybody that doesn't have a number as a name. Regardless, using the powers of the video game protagonist, I warped time to before I made the funny bell ring and began rummaging through all the personal belongings once more. Who puts eggs in a bank vault? I should honestly eat these for dinner tonight. Also, the amount of gold bars sitting down here is insane in the membrane. After a certain point, monkey brain turns on when certain events transpire, and picking up solid gold bars heavier than my face does something to the brain chemicals. With the vault data core secure, all side quests were now complete, and now the real challenge begins. I started it by heaving the core to the back of that guy's head, simply because I could. I thought about changing my outfit to accommodate my next goal, but I simply like my knitted sweater too much. I figured this spot was as secure a place as any to leave the data core, and it was time to head back upstairs. I'm not sure whether this is a real video game or not, but there was a cheeseburger on the desk and I really wanted it, so I threw a couple of burial knives into these guys' faces because I find violence to be very, very fun, and who wouldn't want to pick up a cheeseburger with a few flies circulating it? There was a security guard who was working very hard, looked quite hungry, but seemed quite stubborn in his work, so I lured him out with my sultry voice and a coin I stole from the vault earlier, and offered the cheeseburger to his awaiting mouth. His tongue was dancing in absolute ecstasy at the sheer amount of flavors exploding into his face hole that he passed out from overstimulation. I also caught these two whack jobs goofing off instead of doing their job, so I went ahead and taught them a harsh lesson. There's a reason I'm feeding cheeseburgers to hungry employees, and these fools are stuck watching a standard definition television from over 20 years ago. The situational awareness of these two makes me question if I've ever had a gun pointed at the back of my head while watching TV, because I can relate. Not to the part where brain matter is exposed everywhere, but just not paying attention. Somebody somewhere probably once said, "Do not question genius," and I'm rolling with it, so do not question my actions inside of this bathroom. If I see any comments doing so, I will personally name a victim of mine after you. Also, please explain this.
Damn. Hey, is anyone there? Is anyone there?
Just me. I've honestly had it with the morons everywhere. This is a New York bank, for God's sake. What in the hell is going on here? So I chose that guy in particular and detonated that parcel bomb at his feet because I like blowing shit up, and sent him to the great big financial institution in the sky. The fired banker with the kick-ass sweater is about to make FBI's most wanted list. I'm honestly stunned at the sheer stupidity I am witnessing right now. At this point, it was time for the sweep and clear, and that started with all these computer screens. There's something therapeutic about sending a scorching hot flying piece of metal through an electronic screen. It's like my own version of a rec room, only I get paid to destroy things. Though I will say, this guy right here, he's seen some shit. In a magical twist of fate, I found several unfortunate souls hiding out in the bathroom. It smelled kinda weird in there, not gonna lie, and these gold bars were getting kinda heavy in my pockets, so I made sure everyone currently present got one. 47 could have become a great baseball player if he wanted. He might have been able to get a $700 million contract if he tried. Can anybody figure out the math on how much velocity is needed behind the throw of a regular rolled up newspaper to effectively knock somebody out on the spot? I honestly really want to know, because this is just insane. Many more misdeeds were done inside of this bank that I'll leave to the imagination, but overall, the mission was a success. For the sake of my sanity, I didn't keep up with the kill count this time. There was already way too many people in the bank that I'm wondering if it broke OSHA standards. And after a certain point, I just got agitated at the brainless husks walking around calling themselves bankers. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving it a like, or if you hated it, leave it a dislike. And if you haven't already, and you like what you see on the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Helps me out a ton. Shout out to all my Patreon supporters for making videos like this one possible. Have a good one. Peace out.